In this video, we will show how a new user will create the first database and explore a few other features in rmx DBS. It starts off with an email from the system administrator who has sent me a message that shows that a database has been created for me. And so I can just click the URL that's in my email and log into the database with my user, which is testuser@hpe.com. So here is the WebDBS portal. I will log on as a tenant and my username was testuser@hpe.com. I will enter my password that I've received in a different email. And now I get into my area and you can see that I have one database created for me, API TestDB. It is up and running. It runs version 3.8. And this is the database URL that that was also mentioned in the email address to me. So this is what I would use to make a connection in JDBC or ODBC and also pass my my database name. In the previous presentation, we've explored a few of these selections, but here I will just show that the database is active and we have 4 connections ready to go for me. So what do I need to do? I need to download the driver and some software, but at least I need to do the driver. And I can get these from the downloads view. And here you can see that there is documentation, there is the rmxci.driver. So let's say I haven't got anything yet, so I'll just download rmxci.command shell. I download the jar file for rmxci, and I download t4sqlmx.zip. And to actually create a database, I will also download the create scripts that I use in my next examples. Right. Another thing I would like to show you is the reference page, where you have access to the manuals, but also to the videos on YouTube, where videos like this one are already present. So for example, end user database management and creating a database using WebDBS by a system administrator. So let's continue with looking at the databases. I got my connections, everything is up and running. So now let's use remote rmxci, which I have already started. I basically used the same scripts that I was downloading. So let's position this here and log in. And I will use my password that was assigned to me. Right? I'm connected to API TestDB at Azure Services, blah, 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 port 2100. So let's see what's out there today. So I'm using some commands of remote rmxci, and one of them is show tables. And there are no tables except for these histogram tables that are used for database statistics, and these exist for every schema. I can look at some views that have been created for me as part of the create database task. And you can see there are some views that call ZZ something, and they are useful, right, for looking at some of these other views. So for example, if I look what kind of views there are, I can also, rather than do a show view, I can say I can select and you can see that I have these views here, but also the user views if we add the database later on. The systables is a nice one because it shows you what other metadata there is, if you like. So here you can see we have like the metadata views, which are in the definition schema version schema, and there are additional views in the information schema. Okay, so let's create these the tables. But first, let me show this. If I refresh the screen here, you will see that I now have a connection active, which is testuser@hpe.com. Application is remote rmxci, and this is my workstation. I use another command of remote rmxci to show what is in my directory. Localhost dir. And here you can see I have my HR create, the drop, the populate, and so on, the jar files, and some other files that I created here for demo purposes. So I can do, source the create table script. I can use @sign create SQL.sql. Right. And now I have my table. So if I do show tables, you can see now I have tables created. Right. So now I'll do the localhost dir again, and now I'm going to populate these tables. And it's not called fast for nothing. This is actually a script that's used for other databases as well, and for Liquibase. So it's a generic script for doing different things. So now I can actually look at some of the data. The employees table. And there are 107 rows inserted. That's exactly the number that I expected. So let's update statistics, and then we're done for here, and then we can go and look at the graphical user interface. I'll run update statistics, which populates the histogram tables, and and I can now look at some data from the statistics table, from the table metadata. The stats date, the stats row count, and the block size. Then here you can see I have my tables. They have been updated just now, and these are the row counts, and they all have a block size of 4K. Now, how does this look on disk? I will just do a quick show DDL of the regions table to show you how the database was created. So I've set this up such a way that we have a single volume, $dbs001, and I have two partitions, because then in that way automatic hash partitioning is invoked. Okay, so now I can get rid of this. I'll exit out here. And now I will switch over to using DBeaver, which is a client for which is a nice GUI client. In my preparation, I already did this, so I'll just quickly show how I would make a connection. Right? I've set, here's the URL that we've seen before. I'm using port 2100 and my database is API_testDB. My username, test user with my password, and I'll just connect into it. And I can see here my API testDB. I got my default schema, I got my definition schema for the metadata and my information schema. Now if I quickly go back here and see, do a refresh here, you can see that my remote rmxci is gone, but DBeaver now has created two connections, one for its own metadata and the other one for queries. So now I could just basically, I could look here for my default schema. And here I will have the ER diagram for the schema. So the employees in the middle is a history, employees belong to departments. So it actually will go into the SQLMX metadata and make this nice chart. And from here, you can do basically, you can start a database console, an editor, and run your own queries from here. You can create a console for this database, and I can say select star from right, and here you have your data. Or I could go into explore here and look, for example, for departments. You can see what the column definitions are, what the data is, and what its part of the diagram is. Departments here, and this is what is around the relationships with other tables in this database. And this ends my quick demo as a first time user on SQLMX DBS. Thank you very much.